boy, do I have a story to tell. Wow. Craziest thing happened a while ago. And this is part 2. So if you haven't seen the first part, please pause this video and go watch the other one before you watch this one. The other video was me doing a walk around of my childhood home that was boarded up. Like the last 2, maybe 3 minutes of that 6-minute video will explain what I'm about to talk about now. And I just kind of want to share my experiences because the weirdest thing just happened. I don't know if it's really weird, but it was weird in the sense that the emotions that went through all this kind of like resurfaced in a way. So this video specifically is going to talk about kind of what I went through and then like the mental health side of things. So go watch the other video first and then come back to watch this one. That one's part 1, this one's part 2. Alright, let me see if I can get through this explanation here. If you watch the end of that other video, something happened in that moment and I literally had to stop recording. I wanted to continue, but I had to stop. And let me just explain kind of what happened. And I know that everything happens for a reason. And I'm a firm believer in that. When I pulled into that driveway at that house, I was just going to look around on the outside. You know, I ended up walking into the backyard and seeing how bad it was. And as I'm walking back to the front, something hit me. And something said, hey, go inside. And I did not open that side door. That door was already open. There is a reason that entire house was boarded up, but that door was open. And one, I'm curious, but 2, I'm a rebel, so break rules sometimes. But I just had to go see for myself what the inside of this house looked like. And I'm going to move forward to the part that was at the end of the video. The other video, part 1. I didn't know this was going to happen. But I went inside that side door because it was open. And I saw a golden opportunity, so I took it and went inside the house. And I wanted to document what I saw, so therefore I did the video. And in that moment where I showed the back room is when something hit me. You can't tell in the video because I was recording, but my heart started pounding. I got a little choked up, and I stayed strong though to get through the video and show the rest of the nasty house. I mean, it wasn't like that when I lived there, of course, but it's gone to trash now. A lot of those holes in the floor and the walls, somewhere in the ceiling was there after I moved out years ago, but it's only gotten worse. And anyway, ignore the part of the condition it looks like, because that wasn't, well, I don't know, that was my intent, to go inside just to look at the condition of the house. But then everything changed when I saw that back bedroom. That was the first time I saw that back bedroom that empty, ever. I've been there many a times after my mom passed away, but there was always furniture in there, beds, dresser, chair, or something. So it's kind of hard to see the floor layout. like I did in this video. Anyway, I stopped the other video because I could not continue. I was brought back in that moment 30 years ago. In a way, I was kind of like unintentionally absorbing it, and it started to hurt. And it wasn't a pleasant feeling. And I didn't know how to act, how to respond to what was going on inside, like inside my body itself, like in my heart, but also what was going through my head in that moment. But after I stopped the video, I came back out to the car and I just started bawling. I was crying really hard, and I just let it. I cried. I didn't try to stop it, didn't try to hold back or fight it. I just cried, and I allowed myself to. It was 5 years ago. I went through I don't know if you want to call it a trauma school, you can. I went through a brain injury course, inpatient treatment program thing. And there we talked about our traumas and what we feel to believe our most severe traumatic experience. And mine was the story of my mom. And I was 5 years old when she passed away. And 5 years ago, up to that point, I'm almost 36, so I was 31 at the time that I was seeing this therapist, doctor, counselor guy, and he taught me some skills to be able to help handle and deal with this moment, or these moments when I have them. And for the first time in my entire life, I opened up, wide open to him, to go through the story of what happened with my mom. And if you watch the end of that video, I left it at the surface level. I did not talk about the details because I didn't want to get into those feelings again. And so in a way, I was kind of somewhat bottling it up until I ended the video. But when I was talking to this doctor, therapist guy, 5 years ago, I had held it in for 26 years up to that point. I've never dealt with it before. I mean, I could go around and say, hey, yeah, my mom died when I was 5 and that was it. I wouldn't say anything else about it. No details, no absorbing in those sadness moments. But I just mentioned it, hit it, and left. But this time, I opened up to him and gave every detail that I could ever think of or remember in that moment 30 years ago. So I remember what he said, and what he told me 5 years ago was that you don't want to reject it. There's a lot of sadness in there. Of course, anybody would be sad if they lost their mom, especially if you found her. So my entire life from then on, I've always rejected the sadness with anger. I use my anger to cover it up. Because when I'm in pain, I get angry. Like when I'm hurting physically, mentally, emotionally, when I am in pain, I get mad. I get angry and frustrated. And when I, unleash that beast, it helps me release it and like let it go and move on. And for many years, I didn't know how to control that beast. I've had a lot of friendships and relationships and family members that I've ruined because of the inability to control that anger. And a lot of times, every time I feel sad, I express it through anger. And I did not give a crap who I hurt during that moment. I've had to go back and apologize to many people. And even then, they accepted the apology, but they still don't want nothing to do with me. And that's okay, that's fine. You know what? I've had to learn to live with lost relationships. But in that moment, today, I do what the doctor said, and don't reject it. Accept it. Welcome it with open arms. Like the song, I think it's Creed, with arms wide open. I did that. I didn't push back and be like, no. I said, you know what? Come on with it. Bring it. Let me have it. Let me feel it. Because there's healing in that. It hurts. I'm not gonna lie, it freaking hurts. But hurt creates healing. If you accept it and work through it, you will heal. You can heal, at least a little bit. I'm not saying completely, but I've had to work on that the last 5 years since learning how to be, open to the sadness. So instead of rejecting it, I've learned to accept it, welcome it, wide open arms, and just be in that moment with it. I bring all that up because here's what happened at the end of the other video. After I go out to cry in the car, I called up my dad. Now, not my actual bio real dad, but my childhood dad. He was my brother's dad, my half brother. We have different dads, but my childhood, he was my dad, so I still call him dad. I have two dads. Anyway, I called up my dad and just told him I need to talk. But there wasn't a lot of talking. It was a lot of crying is what I did. And he couldn't even figure out what was going on. And I was able to finally calm down a little bit to speak with him. I told him that I just went to the house. And he knows that I was referring to, my childhood home. The one that my mom passed away in. And I told him I scrolled through the house. And I came into the same bedroom. And after I ended that video, it hit me. And he's like, what? I was like, I've told my story in the last 5 years to some folks. And I could tell you every detail. And yeah, it brings up some emotions. But I was able to get through it pretty easily without being too emotional. But I've never told that story while in that house. In the same room where it happened at. So now I'm back in the exact same location of where it took place 30 years ago. And it hit me. It hit me hard and it hit me differently. Because telling a story outside the house ain't that bad. Telling that story while in the same room where it happened at, way different experience. And I lost it. I could not control what I was feeling, what I was thinking. But I remember the doctor saying, just let it happen. Don't reject it. So I did. That's why I went out to the car and cried. And I called my dad and I cried. And I cried and I cried and I cried. Because it hurt. And I knew that if I didn't cry, I would have rejected and I'd just been pissed off today. And I don't want to be pissed off today. I'm going to go see Metallica tonight, so I need to be in a good mood. But I'm getting this out now before I go there so I can enjoy the concert tonight. But there was a reason that side door was open. There was a reason that I had the courage and the balls to walk inside that house to just see the condition. Not knowing what I was literally walking into. But I believe that was supposed to happen. I was supposed to go in that room today. I was supposed to be in that same spot where she died 30 years ago. But what I was not expecting or ready for was being blindsided. I was throwing a curveball. I've been in the house many times since then. But telling the story while in there, like, ripped open a scab. Or literally slicing me right in the heart, because that's where it hurt. And it was like a brand new, fresh wound all over again. Because not only did I explain the situation and walk the viewers of the video through what happened, this is the part that was unexpected for me. Not only did I explain it, but I relived it. And I was not ready for that. I didn't know that I was going to relive it in that moment. I didn't know if I'd ever have to experience it again. It literally felt like she was right there, even though she wasn't, and that I found her dead all over again 30 years later. I was not ready for that. It hurt. And I was upset for the next hour, maybe, or two. And if you can just imagine yourself finding someone dead and you're shocked, it's like surreal. You're like, no, this can't be happening. This isn't true. How? Why? All this starts running through your head, and you're completely like dumbfounded for the next couple moments or hours. And that's what happened to me today. It happened all over again. I relived it, and I didn't want to. I didn't know that was going to happen. Because if I'd known that was going to happen, I would have avoided it. I would have rejected it. I would have refused to even go over there. But maybe this is God's way of telling me, you need some closure because you're not over this shit. So go. And I goed. I went. And you don't know what you're going through in the moment. You always figure it out way later on. But I think this is a pretty clear sign that I needed the closure of being able to deal and heal through these moments with, I call it my mama trauma. Not my mama drama, but my mama trauma. Because for many years I didn't deal with it. I hid it, I put it away, refused to deal with it. I didn't know how. But now I've been able to get through it. It's to tell my story and to share with others that, might be going through some similar things. You're not alone. Maybe you are telling me that right now. I'm not alone. You're going through it or have been through it. But if others haven't, or maybe just went through it, I know what you're going through. I've lived it. I'm still living it. 30 years later. But I know that there is healing in the hurt. I know because I've actively been trying to intentionally get better over the last 5 to 10 years. I have no agenda for this conversation, for this video. I have no script. I'm just literally going off what is coming to my head and just spilling it out. And I'm not trying to ramble on, whatever you want to call it. But Dr. Dan, that was his name from 5 years ago, who told me to, accept it, don't reject it, had said that, at that time for 26 years, I had bottled it all up. And when I talked to him, all I did was crack the lid to this bottle that was under pressure and just relieved some of the pressure, some of the steam. And now I capped it back up because I didn't want to deal with it. But all the contents inside that bottle was all the feelings and emotions I still had in me. And I capped it. And And so every time I tell my story, in a way, I'm uncapping it and relieving some of the pressure. And he says sooner or later, it's not going to happen overnight, but eventually, the more you tell your story, you're going to be able to take that bottle, I have one, and you can take the lid off, and there's liquid in here. I'm not actually going to pour it out, but you could release some of it. And I kind of can see the line there. I'm not going to actually pour it out, but you're releasing the contents within. And yeah, you might be able to cap it again or whatever, but the goal is to eventually empty this bottle out. And we'll just pretend for a moment that this lid is not on here, so you can pour it all out, eventually get all the liquid out, and just be able to hold this bottle upside down, so that way when these emotions and feelings come, they can go in the bottle, swirl around. That's when you're accepting it, you're welcoming it, you're, arms wide open, and then they can flow right out. And you don't have to keep it. You can let it go. And I was like, I never thought of it that way. And I feel like, in a way, this might be that final step for me to be able to do that. I feel like I'm still here, though. Well, maybe after today, I'll feel like I can get there. But I feel like there was still stuff in here. So when I relived that moment today, they came. I absorbed it, took it in for an hour or two. And even now, but I can let it go. I don't have to cap it back up and build the pressure and let it explode in anger or whatever that may look like. But today I was able to just leave the lid off. I let the hurt come in. Maybe I poured some out. There's still stuff inside that hurts. There's still some pain, but this time I didn't reject it. I didn't keep it under pressure so it can blow up to explode. I allowed it to come in, I allowed it to go. And I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be able to empty this bottle of emotions that's been locked away for many, many, many years. And it's something that I've been working on since I've learned to open up to it. It was tough, very tough today. I left there, and probably 10-15 minutes down the road was the cemetery where she's buried at. So I went to her gravesite right after this happened. I felt obligated and demanded, in a way, that I must go there before anywhere else, and I literally went directly there, like straight to it. And I visited for a moment, and I opened up YouTube and I played her favorite song, which was The Dance by Garth Brooks. So I tried to sing along to that. And then the song that they played at her funeral was Tears in Heaven by Eric Clapton. And sure enough, when I played that song there, I cried through it. Because it took me back to that day 30 years ago during her funeral. I don't remember the funeral like it was yesterday. I do briefly remember parts of it. But what I do remember is the day that I found her dead. On June 15th. She was 29, almost 30 years old. And August 3rd is her birthday, which just passed. That was 30 years ago. She would have been 60, I believe. Yeah, 23. She was born in 63. She'd been 60 years old this year. But no body, but especially no 5-year-old should ever go through that. I mean, imagine your kid or a niece or a nephew or somebody you know that's around 5 years old finding their mom dead. probably thinking I can't even imagine. And I lived it. And relived it today. As a 5-year-old and then a 35-year-old. I wish it didn't happen. But sometimes I'm kind of glad it happened because it built who I am, but it'd been nice to have my mom around my life. My little brother was only 1. She left both of us behind. But no 5-year-old should ever have to find their parents dead, or a parent dead, or anybody, not even 5-year-olds, just anyone. It's a traumatizing experience, and it never goes away. Your body remembers. And even with all the brain injuries that I have, I will never forget any of the details that happened that day, or at least in that moment when I found her. I remember what she was wearing. I remember the color of her skin and her body temperature, which was really low. This was tough, but I'm pretty sure if I can get through that, I can get through anything. And I got through 26 years with no education, no knowledge, no help, no counseling of how to get through it, how to deal with it, how to heal. But in the last 5 years, I've been grateful that I've learned how to cope and to learn through these moments during these tough times. So I'm grateful for those. And it was crazy, not the same doctor, but I had a different counselor, and she told me this about grieving. Grieving is your final act of love for that person. And I agree and disagree at the same time. I would say the same thing minus the word final. Because it's not the final time that you're showing an act of love towards that person that you lost. It's not the final one. Because here I am 30 years later and I'm still grieving over it. So when it happened years and years and years ago, that wasn't my final act of love. I just think grieving is an act of love for that person that you lost. And it's okay to grieve. It's okay to be sad, because when you grieve, you're just showing that person that how much you cared and that you love them. And it may cause a lot of heartache and a lot of pain. But grieving is a good thing. It sucks because it hurts. But the hurt creates healing. And if I can heal, you can heal. And I've been through a lot in my life. This is just one story, but this is my most traumatic and severe story. You can add combat experiences to that when I was in the Army, because that didn't help. I was in a bad motorcycle wreck in 2009 where I should have died. I walked out of the hospital that night with a broken collarbone when I should have been paralyzed. That was traumatic as well, but none of it compares to just witnessing and finding your mom passed away. That was not even physical. That was emotional. And emotions hurt so much worse than physical pain. And it's been so hard throughout my life to deal with it and to try to handle it. There's been times where I just wish that I wasn't here anymore because I don't want to feel it. But I was too chicken to do anything about that. And now that I have kids, there's no way that I could do anything to leave them behind, because I know they need me. And I'm not going to put them through what I had to go through. I can't even imagine that. What I feel, I never want them to feel. Because they shouldn't have to go through that. And they're not going to, for as long as I can control it. But whenever it's my time to go, I'll just wait for God to call me home. I thought I was supposed to go home. And I say home, I'm talking about in heaven. I was supposed to go in 2009, I feel. But God had other plans. And that's another story I'll tell later on, because he literally said, I'm not done with you yet. And put me back down here, or didn't allow me to die for a reason. And here I am, still living and doing the best that I can with what's been dealt to me through physical and emotional, psychological pain. It hurts, but I'm doing it. Anyway, I just wanted to share what happened today, because I feel like it happened all over again. I felt like my mom died a second time, and I was 35 when I found her instead of 5. It hit a lot harder, but I was more prepared to handle it in a way. Although it hit me unexpectedly, because I allowed it to happen, like allowed the emotions to come and go instead of rejecting them, which I believe is how I was able to help heal, get through it. There's healing in the hurt. Don't reject it, just accept it. Welcome it with open arms. Deal with the pain, and eventually, eventually that bottle that's under pressure will be relieved, and you'll be able to take the lid off, pour all the contents out, and leave that damn bottle upside down. Let the feelings come and go as they please, and accept them when they're there. Don't reject them. You should be okay. But I also suggest talking to people too. If you can get a counselor, get one. If not, someone you trust. But open up and don't hold nothing back. Give all the details you can, because it hurts, but it helps. Trust me, it helps. And great, there's a truck right there that just pulled into this gas station. That was a truck that my granddad gave me when I was a kid, then sold it shortly after. It's the same year, make, and model. And now I'm thinking of my grandpa. That being said, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Reach out if you want to talk. I'll talk to you. That's what I do. I'm the mouth from the south. I talk a lot, as you could tell. Anyway, I'm gonna let y'all go. Y'all take care. Y'all have a good day. I'm gonna go check out this truck. See y'all later. Peace.